Deep in the heart of China lies a river that has witnessed the rise and fall of dynasties, the ebb and flow of cultures. The Yangtze River, a ribbon of life, has shaped civilizations for thousands of years, its waters nurturing the land and its people. From ancient settlements to bustling modern metropolises, the river's influence is undeniable. It's Asia's longest river, a majestic waterway stretching over 6,300 kilometers. It serves as a vital artery for hundreds of millions, a lifeline for agriculture, industry and transportation. Communities thrive along its banks, their lives intertwined with the river's rhythm. But the Yangtze is also a source of devastating floods, a force of nature capable of unleashing immense destruction. Throughout history, its unpredictable nature has brought both prosperity and peril. To control its power, to harness its potential while mitigating its risks, humanity embarked on an unprecedented endeavor, building the colossal Three Gorges Dam, a testament to human ingenuity and ambition. This engineering marvel was designed not only to prevent disastrous floods, protecting countless lives and livelihoods, but also to generate vast amounts of clean electricity, powering homes and industries, and to improve navigation, facilitating trade and connectivity. Downstream, Dongting Lake, one of China's largest freshwater lakes, acts as a natural flood basin, a crucial component of the Yangtze's complex ecosystem. During the monsoon season, it plays a vital role in absorbing the Yangtze's excess waters, preventing widespread inundation and devastation. This lake is also a haven for biodiversity, supporting a rich ecosystem of plants, fish, and migratory birds, a testament to nature's resilience. The dam and the lake are inextricably linked, locked in a delicate balance, a complex interplay of human intervention and natural processes. One represents the ambition of human control, the desire to tame the forces of nature. The other embodies nature's inherent resilience, its capacity to adapt and endure. Their intricate relationship is central to the modern story of the Yangtze, a story of ambition, control, and the enduring power of nature. It's a story that reached a critical juncture, a moment of truth in the summer of 2024. The fate of millions of people, their homes, their livelihoods, would soon depend on how these two giants, one a monument of concrete and steel, the other a vast expanse of water and wetlands, could withstand the relentless force of nature's next great test, a challenge that would push them to their limits. The summer of 2024 brought relentless historic rains to southern China. Torrents turned streams into rivers and fields into lakes, overwhelming the vast Yangtze Basin. Water levels surged past warning marks, the river strained against its banks and man-made barriers. Authorities declared the number 2 flood of the year as infrastructure in cities like Chongqing buckled under the deluge. Highways collapsed, railways halted, and communities were cut off. Nature's power overwhelming modern defenses. The floodwaters gathered, racing east toward the Three Gorges Dam, now facing its greatest test. The safety of 400 million people downstream depended on the dam and the embankments holding firm. The entire region braced for the river's next move. The true scale of the crisis was only beginning to unfold. As floodwaters surged past the Three Gorges Dam, they poured into Dongting Lake's vast basin. For centuries, the lake's wetlands have acted as a safety valve, soaking up excess water and protecting millions downstream. But the dam's construction changed the river-lake relationship, trapping sediment, sending faster, more erosive water downstream, and weakening ancient dikes. In July 2024, these vulnerabilities were exposed as water levels in Dongting Lake soared, pressing hard against embankments. Communities watched anxiously as the lake swelled, threatening homes and farmland. The polders, reclaimed lowlands protected by dikes, were especially at risk. In Tuanzhouyuan polder, thousands faced a desperate struggle as the floodwaters peaked. The fate of entire villages now rested on the strength of a single earthen wall. The situation at Tuanzhouyuan polder had been critical for days, with the dike strained to its absolute limit. The relentless pressure of the floodwaters rising higher and higher had taken its toll. Finally, the inevitable occurred. The dike, weakened and overburdened, finally gave way under the immense and relentless pressure. The earth groaned, and the structure began to crumble. A torrent of water, a powerful surge exploded through the breach, unleashing its pent-up fury upon the land. It was a dramatic and devastating release, a wall of water surging forward with incredible speed and power. The initial breach widened rapidly, becoming a gaping wound in the landscape. The unleashed water rapidly spread, flooding 48 square kilometers. an area encompassing homes, businesses, and vital agricultural land. The scale of the inundation was breathtaking and terrifying. Within hours, vast stretches of farmland and entire villages were submerged, disappearing beneath the rising waters. The transformation was swift and merciless, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. Fortunately, thanks to urgent warnings and proactive measures, over 7,600 residents had been evacuated just in the nick of time, narrowly escaping the flood's destructive path. The evacuation was a race against time, a desperate attempt to save lives in the face of impending disaster. They were forced, with heavy hearts, leaving behind their homes, their possessions, and their livelihoods, unsure of what the future held. The emotional toll of such a displacement was immense. The flood swallowed fields, consuming crops that represented months of hard work and sustenance for the community. Roads, the lifelines of the region, were rendered impassable, and entire villages, once vibrant communities, were now isolated islands in a sea of muddy water. The relentless floodwaters transformed the familiar landscape into a vast, murky lake, a desolate expanse where homes and businesses once stood. For those watching from higher ground, safe but helpless, it was a heartbreaking sight, a panorama of devastation that stretched as far as the eye could see. Their world, their memories, their very sense of place, was now submerged beneath the floodwaters, leaving them adrift in uncertainty. The breach at Tuanzhouyan was not an isolated incident, it was just one of several along the Yangtze, a stark reminder of the river's immense power. These breaches exposed the vulnerability of the entire embankment system, raising serious questions about the long-term effectiveness of the flood defenses. Further downstream, in Yueyang, the river burst its banks in not one but three separate places, compounding the crisis and spreading the devastation. This new wave of breaches threatened even more communities, placing countless lives and livelihoods at immediate risk. The situation was spiraling out of control. The delicate balance between human engineering, our attempts to control nature, and the raw power of the natural world had been irrevocably shattered. The Yangtze was reclaiming land with a force that seemed unstoppable, a relentless surge that no wall, no matter how strong, could ultimately contain. The crisis was far from over. It was an ongoing emergency that demanded immediate action and long-term solutions. The road to recovery would be long and arduous. As the floodwaters relentlessly surged, a vast area was submerged, and disaster spread, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. Homes were inundated, infrastructure crumbled, and entire communities found themselves grappling with the overwhelming force of nature. The scale of the catastrophe demanded immediate and decisive action. China launched a massive emergency response, mobilizing every available resource to confront the escalating crisis. Coordination centers buzzed with activity as teams assessed the damage, strategized relief efforts, and dispatched aid to the hardest-hit regions. Authorities activated a high-level flood control alert, signaling the urgency of the situation and empowering emergency services to take swift and comprehensive measures. Every level of government was engaged, working in concert to mitigate the impact of the floods. This involved mobilizing resources and personnel nationwide, from seasoned rescue teams to specialized equipment, all converging on the disaster zone. Convoys of emergency vehicles snaked through the affected areas, carrying vital supplies and reinforcements. Evacuations became the top priority, a race against time to move people out of harm's way as the waters continued to rise. Hundreds of thousands were moved in a massive logistical undertaking, requiring careful planning and execution. Families were uprooted, leaving behind their homes and possessions, but their safety was paramount. They were moved from low-lying areas to safety, to higher ground where they could find refuge from the encroaching waters. Emergency shelters sprang up, seemingly overnight. These shelters offered refuge and care for the displaced, providing food, medical attention, and a sense of security amidst the chaos. Volunteers worked tirelessly to ensure that everyone had their basic needs met. Meanwhile, soldiers deployed in large numbers, workers and countless civilian volunteers, they raced against the clock to reinforce dikes, bolstering defenses against the relentless pressure of the floodwaters. Stacking sandbags one by one, they were plugging leaks and repairing breaches in treacherous conditions, often working through the night under the glare of floodlights. In Hunan, dedicated teams fought valiantly to repair breaches near Yueyang, a critical point in the flood defenses. They were battling the river's relentless assault, a constant struggle against the overwhelming power of nature. The Three Gorges Dam played a crucial role in this crisis, standing as a monumental barrier against the floodwaters. It was holding back flood peaks to protect downstream cities, preventing even greater devastation. But this also meant rising water levels behind the dam, creating a vast reservoir that tested the limits of its capacity. This was putting the structure itself under immense strain, requiring constant monitoring and careful management to ensure its integrity. Every decision was a gamble, a high-stakes calculation with potentially far-reaching consequences. It was balancing the safety of millions against the limits of engineering, a delicate act that demanded precision and expertise. The race against the current, against the rising tide of disaster, was a fight for survival, a testament to human resilience in the face of overwhelming odds. The Three Gorges Dam, designed for a once-in-10,000-year flood, now faced unprecedented pressure. The reservoir swelled, testing the dam's limits and raising fears about its long-term stability. Experts warned of risks. The dam's weight has triggered seismic activity, and its sediment trapping has weakened downstream defenses. Ironically, the structure built to prevent floods may be increasing vulnerability in the plains below. In 2024, the dam blunted the worst of the flood, likely saving countless lives in cities like Wuhan. Yet the event exposed the immense strain on the dam and the cascading risks it creates downstream. The shadow of the dam looms over the Yangtze, a shield, but also a source of new dangers. What if the Three Gorges Dam failed? The consequences would be unimaginable. A breach would unleash a wall of water, obliterating everything downstream. Cities like Yichang and Wuhan would be devastated within hours. Millions could die, tens of millions displaced, and entire communities erased. The flood would destroy infrastructure, farmland, and trigger disease outbreaks in its toxic wake. The ecological damage would be permanent, the humanitarian crisis unprecedented. China's thousands of other dams, many aging and in seismic zones, add to the risk. The threat isn't just local. Dam failures in the Himalayas could send deadly floods into neighboring countries. The price of reshaping great rivers is immense and the cost of failure catastrophic. A catastrophic dam failure wouldn't just devastate China, it would shake the world. The Yangtze Basin is a global manufacturing powerhouse producing a huge share of the world's goods. If submerged, 15% of global manufacturing capacity could vanish overnight. Supply chains would collapse, causing shortages, soaring prices, and financial losses for companies worldwide. The economic shock would trigger a global recession and expose the world's reliance on China as a critical vulnerability. The humanitarian crisis would demand an international response, straining governments and aid systems. Social and political unrest could follow, both in China and beyond. In our interconnected world, a disaster on the Yangtze would send ripples across the entire planet. The Yangtze floods of July 2024 are a warning for all humanity. They reveal the power of nature and the risks of trying to control it, especially as climate change intensifies extreme weather. The Three Gorges Dam brings benefits, but also new vulnerabilities, like the erosion that led to the Dongting Lake breach. Every intervention in nature has consequences, often unforeseen until crisis strikes. Our global supply chains mean a flood in China can empty shelves worldwide. These events demand humility, cooperation, and a new approach to resilience. The story of the Yangtze is a lesson for us all, about water, risk, and our shared future.